G'day mate, 40 here. So I just read a terrific Substack post by veteran political reporter Cilizza, and the headline was Tim Walz suffers from main character syndrome. So first of all, what is main character syndrome? Right, it is a colloquial expression. It is not a scientific or medical diagnosis. By the way, medicine is not a science. It contains elements of science, just as economics contains elements of the scientific method, but neither of them are science. So main character syndrome is that you not only think that you're the main character in your life, which you are and you should be, and that's right and good, but you think that you're the main character in a much bigger, more sweeping narrative. That's usually a delusion, right? For 99% of people, you are not the main character for other people. Right? Even if you're a boss, right? Even if you're the supervisor or the boss, you're not the main character in the lives of most of your employees. Okay, Jenny's in the chat. Do you think that we obsess a lot over these things? It's brain damage a bunch of brains, get a whole book of symptoms, they put a bunch of names on the same thing. I think having accurate terminology is useful, and giving due importance to what is important, and putting undue importance on things is importantly wrong. So I think doing whatever you need to do to be your best self, to have the most clarity, is important. That the more sophisticated our understanding of how we work from the bottom up, from inside out, and having a more sophisticated understanding of how other people operate and the world around us operates, so from the top down, that this should enable us to better grapple with reality. So clarity, correct terminology, clear understanding of what challenges us is important and good. Now, some people apparently are better off with less introspection, but I think most people benefit from clarity and increasingly sophisticated models of how we work from the bottom up, and how the world around us and the people around us work from the top down. But the proof is in the pudding. And here is the pudding. Are you getting humiliated in reality on a regular basis? If you're getting humiliated, meaning that your status is crushed, your sense of how things work doesn't work out that way, so that you end up looking stupid to yourself and other people, then that's a sign that you're doing things wrong. If, however, you're navigating the world, interacting with other people, you've got friends, family, connections, community, and you're managing to thread all these interactions and relationships without constantly receiving humiliation, then you're doing something right. It means you are in reality. If you are out of touch with reality, you'll get humiliated, and you'll usually get humiliated by overestimating your own importance. And one way of describing overestimating your own importance is main character syndrome, where you think that you are the main character in other people's lives, that what you think is automatically more important than what other people think, that your experiences are automatically more important than other people's experiences. And this will lead to humiliation and less effective interactions with others. All right, back to the chat. The part of the brain damage matters. If you can start damaging it, pharma keeps this secret. The Alzheimer's fraud is the biggest worst. Okay, they know that. Okay, I believe that big pharma is overwhelmingly a great thing. I don't believe that Big Pharma is keeping major secrets from us that could benefit us. And I think it's to America's benefit that Big Pharma prospers. Big Pharma deserves scrutiny just like any other major institution. But overwhelmingly, Big Pharma is a force for good. So many people with rare forms of cancer, all right, they're still alive because of Big Pharma. People with all sorts of health problems, such as obesity, they've been able to solve those problems thanks to Big Pharma. So Big Pharma substantially benefits tens of millions of Americans. Now, main character syndrome. You think it's a syndrome, it's bad, it's negative, when you think you're more important than you are. And Tim Walz thinks he's more important than he is. He was a dud as a vice presidential candidate. He did nothing to help Kamala Harris's chances. And he's going out there and speaking as though if he were only more properly deployed by the Kamala Harris campaign, then Kamala could have won. And so it's delusional. All right. Tim Walz had his big chance in the vice presidential debate, and he was a complete flop. Now, JD Vance, he's a genuine main character. He's the likely presidential nominee of the Republican Party in 2028. He appears to be Donald Trump's successor. He's incredibly influential vice president right now. He has given at least 3 significant major speeches in the past 2 months. He is a main character. Tim Walz, not so much, and his delusions of grandeur are obvious and pathetic and embarrassing. Okay, I don't know much about Alzheimer's disease, so I won't comment there. So I'm interested in the Trump versus Big Law story. And I keep checking back in. There's a lot of coverage of it in the New York Times, Washington Post, Financial Times. And the way the elite news media is covering it is that this is just an unprecedented and unfair and unconstitutional and authoritarian attack on a key democratic institution, small d democratic, by Trump. I think a more balanced view would see that big law has become the brains of the Democratic Party, that it's become an essential part of the left, and that most of our institutions, including big law, are dominated by the left of center, that there are no Republican big law firms, and yet there are no developments in this story. So since the deal that was reached on Thursday afternoon between Trump and the Paul Weiss firm, no developments. The story's just in a holding pattern. So you have a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth. You have predictable reactions from both the right and the left. But nothing has changed. Nothing has apparently shifted, though we do seem to be getting more and more clarity about how Trump's orders threaten to bring about bankruptcy of big law firms unless they get on board. So we see Donald Trump remaking institutions from the top down because Republicans cannot take institutions from the bottom up right now because Democrats, liberals, and lefties are too good at detecting who is a conservative, who's a Republican, and not allowing them to advance through institutions that they control. So the only way that Republicans can change institutions is take them over from the top and then institute changes from the top down. So we see this with Florida. Ron DeSantis moves. He's taken over the board of college in Florida. We see this with Twitter. where Elon Musk moved in, took it over and transformed it from the bottom down. And we see this now with the Trump administration forcing major American institutions to bend to their will, because the right does not have the capacity that the left has to mount the long, slow walk through the institutions, right? That's what the left did and took them over. But the right doesn't have that ability. So far, what's most interesting to me is that I'm not seeing effective pushback against Trump except from district judges. So district judges are making these universal rulings that are checking much of the Trump agenda. But outside of that, it does not appear that America's major universities and major law firms and major media companies have found an effective way to fight back against Trump. Instead, I see just varying degrees of capitulation.